Clerk Johnson, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Euchre.
Here.
Trustee Marks.
Here.
Trustee Riley.
Here.
Trustee Spicone.
Present.
Trustee Chagru.
Here.
Trustee Wider.
Present.
Mayor Poynton is absent and excused.
All right, thank you. In the mayor's absence, may I have a motion to appoint a temporary chair for tonight's meeting, please?
So moved, Whiter.
Second, Euchre.
And who are we moving to be nominating to be the chair?
Trustee Spicone.
Mark Spicone, trustee.
Thank you.
Trustee Euchre.
Aye.
Trustee Marks.
Aye.
Trustee Riley.
Aye.
Trustee Spicone.
Aye.
Trustee Chagru.
Aye.
Trustee Wider.
Aye.
All right,
The
thank you.
chair is you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for coming out tonight. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you, everybody. Welcome. Item 4 on the agenda is the President's Report or any community update. We don't have anything for a President's Report this evening, so we're going to move right on to public comment. This is an opportunity for residents to comment briefly on matters included on the agenda and otherwise of interest to the Board of Trustees. Public comment is limited to 30 minutes total and up to 5 minutes per speaker. So we'll start with the our sign-in on the public comment. So I have Tom Rilko first. Tom and Katie Rilko. Okay. It's a package deal.
Katie Rilko, I'll be speaking separately. I'm actually reading something from one of my neighbors.
I'm sorry, if you can, I'm sorry, please state your name and your address for the
Katie
record.
Rilko, 272 West Main Street. We're at the corner of Main and Robertson. So I'm going to read something from one of my neighbors at 75 Robertson. She's 3 doors down from where the development would be. Her name is Jessie Atchison. Me and my family have lived on Robertson Road for 11 years. We love our neighborhood and are living on our street. There are some daily challenges. However, I fear will be amplified if the proposal of the daycare center or commercial building were to be put on this corner. As you know, Robertson's a dead-end road with a few side streets, which means all of us, we only have one way in and one way out. The intersection at Robertson and Main is tricky to navigate on the best of days. During busy times before and after school, and during typical commuting hours, as there would be for the daycare, Robertson's even more delicate. In February of 2023, our son was involved in a car accident at the end of our street for this reason. He was waiting to turn left from Robertson onto Main Street to go to school, and a driver in the line of cars waiting for the light at 22 waved him out. As he hesitated, the light turned green, and then another driver from the other direction hit him. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but it took months for us to get the car fixed. Near misses happen here at this spot all the time. In addition, during the warmer months, especially, our street sees heightened foot traffic. One of these things we love about our neighborhood is how many neighbors walk the street. And people are in and out walking dogs, running. It's always a little nerve-wracking, hoping that no one will get hurt. As long as we are careful and traffic doesn't get too busy, we could possibly make it work. I worry that a commercial building will add traffic coming in and out of Robertson, and our street is not designed to handle, and more accidents will happen and people will get hurt. It is my view for any commercial building in this spot would present similar issues, but it's my strong hope at the minimum a traffic study would be completed during the busier, warmer months to ensure full safety ramifications are understood prior to making any decision. I echo a lot of her things about safety. I'm at that corner almost daily with my children. It's also a bus stop. And just like, forget when a train goes through town, but there's not enough room for a car to be sitting to go right, a car to be sitting to go left, and a car to turn in. And then now you're gonna add more people to go in and out. So you're not really even thinking about the residents on the street. And I'll let my husband continue.
Tom Rilko, 272 West Main Street. I have 4 or 5 kind of areas. The first is safety, and I think that's the most important, and we really should consider that for the residents and the children and the dogs of that area. There is a lack of a turn entrance onto Robertson Road. If you count the number of cars that you can back up to Route 22, it gets really thin. And so as you're having a large amount of people coming in, again at the busiest times in the morning and at the end of the commuting workday, how are those cars that are going to be coming off 22 along with their already normal traffic going to be accommodated for this? There's a turn lane to the right on the 22, a turn lane to the left on the 22, and no turn lane into Robertson. So you share all of Main Street with that area. We have a high concentration of cars, like I said, at school and at the work traffic times. One of the things I just want to reiterate is it is a bus stop in the morning. There is 8 to 10 kids out there with dogs and parents, and that's for the 6:30 bus stop for the middle schools, the 7:40 stops for the elementary schools, and then there's high school bus stops as well. So when traffic accidents happen, where do you think those accidents can end up? They can end up on sidewalks, on corners, and other areas. This is a residential area. I would like to just say that our driveway, we ended up putting a little green guy out there because we end up being the turnaround spot for there. People all the time think I could turn down Robertson, I can get out. They're wrong. They end up by South Shore. They end up in our driveway. They end up all over the place. Now they're going to end up in this daycare. And so we're already concerned about traffic congestion, and now the turnaround congestion that's going to be created for this, I don't think it really makes a lot of sense. That's an R4 residential area. It's listed as the Main Street or Route 22 corridor development opportunity, yet it will not exit on Main Street and it will not exit on Route 22. It is mainly in the residential areas. I think that this board and the city building department should really reconsider about even allowing proposals in if they don't really meet the Main or 22 corridor. I will just say at the end, we looked to buy this property for the past 5 years, and I would subdivide it and turn it into homes. I called your building department. There's a 150-foot sightline restriction on the front corner, so you can't build there. At most, you could fit in 3 residences, and you'll never get Route 22 entrance with IDOT. So commercially, it's just not a viable lot. Sound, I'm concerned about turning what is now blocking Route 22 with a bunch of trees into an open parking lot, and that's going to allow sound to come into our quiet residential community. When they did that on Quentin, there was very large sound barriers put up for those residences. I'd like to hear how this would accommodate that for our residential community back there. From a lighting perspective, it's a commercial business. You got to light it up. It's going to be a parking lot where the light's going to face. There's now light pollution. My kids sleep facing that parking lot, or will be a parking lot in the future, not to mention my neighbors that have kids, the neighbors next to them, as well as all the people living down there. And so how's that going to affect our community? I think this is a round, a round square in a or whatever is round peg in a square hole when you think about it. This is really not an appropriate place for a commercial development. This should be R4. This should be residential. This should be homes that meet our neighborhood. I would challenge this board and this community to think about where we have embedded a commercial business at the entrance of a residential neighborhood. Do you see something at the entrances of Bryn Mawr? If you look at Coral Reef Way, KinderCare's across the street behind a commercial strip mall, right? Even the Bona Beef, it's on the corner of that new neighborhood, but there's streets behind it for entrance and exits. Where do you have commercial buildings going into purely residential neighborhoods? That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Judy Thody.
Hello, Judy Thody, 52 Robertson, Lake Zurich. I have a text from my neighbor Bethany, who lives down the street from me at 36 South Shore, but I mirror her concerns. I'm writing to express my strong opposition to the proposed construction of a new daycare center in our small community near Robertson Road. While I appreciate the value that daycare services bring to a community, this particular location presents significant concerns that cannot be overlooked. The roads surrounding the lake, including Robertson, is already hazardous due to its curved design and limited visibility. Residents frequently walk in the area with children and dogs, and these dangers are exacerbated during winter months when early darkness and icy conditions reduce visibility and road safety. Adding the increased traffic from a daycare facility would create an untenable risk to pedestrians and drivers alike. Robertson Road is a dead end, as was already noted, serving as the only route in and out of our little community. Its narrow one-lane configuration without a turning lane already creates frequent traffic challenges. I personally experienced near accidents due to vehicles failing to yield while turning onto Robertson Road. Increased traffic from parents dropping off and picking up children would significantly worsen congestion, creating daily disruptions for residents and making the road even more dangerous. Currently, school buses cannot safely navigate Robertson Road due to its narrowness, forcing children to be dropped off at the corner of Main and Robertson, and then they need to walk the rest of the way to their homes. Increased traffic from daycare-related vehicles would pose an additional safety risk for these children who must already navigate a narrow road on foot. Our community is home to a variety of wildlife, including deer, coyotes, that depend on the limited green spaces in the area. Further development would encroach on these habitats, forcing animals into residential areas, although they're already there, and increasing risk to domestic pets and small children. Preserving the natural balance of our community is essential for maintaining its characters. For these reasons, I respectfully urge you to reconsider the proposed location of this daycare center. While I understand the need for such facilities, I believe they must be situated in areas that can safely and effectively accommodate the associated traffic and activity without compromising the safety and quality of life of the current residents. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, we have Debbie Lind.
Debbie Lind, 5 Ironwood Court. I'm the first side street off of Robertson. First, I want to say, has anyone been down our street? 2 cars can barely pass. And now we're going to have people turning into our street when we can barely fit 2 cars in there anyway. If I'm a parent coming down 22, going west to turn onto Main, to turn onto Robertson, and now it's all blocked because there's cars waiting to make a right onto 22. Where are those cars going to go? They're going to back up onto 22. To me, and I know people have covered a lot of what I was going to say, this is not a good choice for our area. It's zoned residential. Can't we just continue looking at it as a residential piece? Because I don't think there's enough room there for the daycare they're planning to put in anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last name on the list, Renata Kipnis.
Hello, my name is Renata Kipnis, 119 Robertson Road. I am about 5-6 houses down Robertson. I have 3 children living with me, and overall the neighborhood has a lot of kids. It seems like our neighbors covered, the concerns that I wanted to bring up. But one of the main concerns is my youngest kid is 9-year-old. We do want to allow them to become more independent, riding bikes. And one of the reasons why we chose that neighborhood is because it was pretty secluded, quiet neighborhood. It's a dead end where we didn't have a pass-through traffic. And the streets are narrow to begin with, and as it's been already mentioned. And it's already a concern for us to let them out. And I do want them to develop their independency as they grow, to walk to the bus stop on their own. And it's just gonna raise a lot of concerns with unnecessary traffic that we already have. The streets are narrow, the cars, it's only one way in, one way out. We do need to let each other go, pass when we try to enter. And also, if we have like a family reunion or a holiday and they're gonna have their holidays, where they park, the parking lot, I'm sure whatever they want to create is not going to accommodate all the family members that want to attend their celebrations at the daycare and also ours. And at this point, my daughter already backed up, like a lot of times the cars that are parked right behind the driveways. My 20-year-old daughter backed up into a car just because we don't have room there to even back up sometimes from our driveways. I did notice that since Lake Zurich overall started to getting more developed, which is great, but we did notice a lot more wildlife coming in, which is a concern even with coyotes roaming the streets, and we have small dogs, and concern that now we need to fence our backyards to make sure our animals will be safe. So just wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's everybody on the list. Is there anyone else left that would like to participate? Seeing none, okay, come on up.
That's my daughter.
Okay, if you can state your name and address for the record,
Sure.
please. Thank you.
My name is Jenna Phillips, and my address is 3 Ironwood Court. And this is my daughter Annalise, and we actually just moved to the neighborhood just in June, and we loved it there. We love it there. And then we heard that this was going to be proposed, and I think both my daughter and I felt that it was important that we were here to kind of express our concerns. I just want to echo everything that my neighbors have said. I agree, and I'm a school teacher, so I know about congestion and how it is in the mornings and in the evenings for pickup, and the traffic is a concern. So I just want to echo everything that was said and everything that you've already heard. Thank you.
All right, thank you and welcome to Lake Zurich. All right, seeing no other public comment, we're going to close public comment at this time. Thank you, everybody. We'll move on to item number 6, the consent agenda. These titles will be read by the village clerk and approved by a single roll call vote. Any item may be pulled from the consent agenda for discussion by any village trustee.
6A, approval of minutes from the village board meeting of November 4th, 2024. 6B, approval of semi-monthly warrant register dated November 18, 2024, totaling $1,730,380.77. And that is it.
That might be the smallest consent agenda we've had in a long time. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Riley. Second, Marks.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Trustee Marks?
Aye.
Trustee Riley?
Aye.
Trustee Spicone?
Aye.
Trustee Chagru?
Aye.
Trustee Wider?
Aye.
Trustee Euchre?
Aye.
All
Motion
right.
carries.
Moving on to new business, item 7. This agenda item includes matters coming to the Board of Trustees for discussion and possible action. Item 7A, Trustee Marks.
Sure. Thanks, Mark. So item 7A, courtesy review for proposed daycare learning center at 290 West Main Street. In summary, the Bradford Real Estate Companies requests a courtesy review with the village board to consider a daycare learning center at 290 West Main Street. The proposed Bright Path Early Learning Center is a single-story, 13,000 square foot building with on-site spaces for drop-off, staff parking, and a 10,000 square foot fenced outdoor play area. The proposed concept would position the building as close to the corner as possible to maintain the existing natural landscape tree buffer to the adjacent neighborhood. The outdoor play area will be positioned along Route 22 to allow drivers to enter from Robertson Road to maintain the children's safety and avoid the busy intersection. The developer and village staff seek to understand the village board's preferences toward the proposed development prior to moving forward with a review by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
All right, thank you. Just for clarification, this is a non-voting item at this time. The developer and village staff just seek to understand the board's preferences towards the proposed use at this site. So we will just see a proposed courtesy review at this point, but this is a non-voting action this evening. So just so that everyone can take a deep breath. Thank you. Okay, Michael?
Good evening. With us this evening, representing Bradford Real Estate is Mr. Gary Wendt, and Mr. Ken Marino is here to representing Gromar Real Estate. They are here this evening to provide us with an overview of their project, and they prepared a little bit of a presentation for us. So I invite them to join each other at the podium. If we could get the presentation, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gary Wendt. I'm with Bradford Real Estate Companies out of Barrington. Thank you for this initial opportunity to present to the village. And as you can see, the site has been well represented this evening. It is bounded by the three streets, Route 22, West Main Street, and the Robertson Road. We provided this initial study for review by village staff, and have relocated the building, as we'll see in a next slide, with parking that enters off of Robertson Road. The building was depicted initially by Bright Path at 13,700 square feet. They have looked at their program and actually are reducing the footprint of the building to be 12,000 square feet. The play area, they were first suggesting at 10,000, and that would come down to about 7,500 square feet. Parking would remain at 42. And the play area, as was suggested by village staff, is situated along Route 22, away from the residential neighborhood, and also gives us the opportunity to maintain the landscape screening. Bright Path is a national daycare provider with currently over 100 locations, primarily in the east, and they are looking to expand into the Chicagoland area. Bradford, by the way, has developed more than 20 daycare facilities, so we know this program well. And focus is really on the children that are being served. They are infants through age 6. This is not an elementary school, and daycare providers are operating Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to about 6 p.m. The traffic for a daycare center is early morning and late evening. Again, not like a elementary school when at 8:15 when the bell rings, there's many cars, and the same at 3 or 4 when they are leaving. The location of the parking was in the northeast corner, such that, as it was said earlier, there'd be no ability to have access on Route 22 or the short dimension on West Main Street. So we had traffic engineer, KLOA, look at this as an initial study. Their finding was that because of the varied, the 3-hour traffic in the morning, 3-hour traffic in the evening, it would not be of concern. As I should also make mention that Bright Path has been looking at exterior elevations and recognized that this is just one example that they have in another location, but that we would work with village staff to come up with a exterior design that would be in keeping with standards of the village. It's a gateway to the village as we see it, but also needs to be congruent with the neighborhood and more of a residential direction. Again, I would just like to emphasize that this is a early learning center. It's not a school, elementary school, certainly not a high school. And safety of the children is most important to ourselves and Bright Path. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now go down the panel here, and I'll start with Trustee Shagru down at the end.
Thank you for the presentation. I think you can hear from the room that there's definitely concerns as far as traffic, and understand what the gentleman or the company said about the 3 hours plus or minus on the beginning of the morning and the afternoon. Have you guys done a traffic study yet?
We have not.
Okay. As far as, I mean, if you walk that area, there is a lot of families, including my family with kids. I think you can hear it from the concern of the room that I think that has to be addressed. The other thing is, as far as zoning, and maybe I'll go to staff, so it's currently residential, correct? We would have to rezone it?
Yes, you would have to rezone the property for a commercial use.
Got it. Okay. I mean, you can hear the concern, and obviously it's a valid concern. I had a daycare put right in my backyard as well, but it was kind of pushed back and way further back, not off of a very busy main street. So I would definitely take into account, and there's obviously no way it's going to be pushed into 22. Have you been to the site to be able to see that it can only back up 2 cars off of Main Street, kind of turning into Robertson? I think that is an absolute big concern for me of just the bog down that it's going to cause for the area. I'm not concerned with the location. I think is just the biggest concern that obviously you're going to have to fight against all the residents, but that's really all I have.
All right, thank you. Trustee Whiter.
Thank you, Trustee Spicone. Thank you for your presentation. I guess my first question is, has Bright Path considered any alternate locations within the village? Is this the only property that they're exploring for their new business?
They've looked at other locations.
Could you go to the microphone, please?
They have looked at other locations, and due to pricing and the size of the pieces, there's just not a lot of locations available in Lake Zurich for this use in their price range. So that's one of the reasons we looked at this.
Thank you. So I heard what you said with regard to the early morning and the later drop off. But as I sat here, I'm thinking, well, maybe that doesn't interact with school bus pickup, but those are rush hour traffic times in the village of Lake Zurich. And traffic is an issue in our village. As the village continues to grow and commercial businesses develop, there are more and more cars in our village, and traffic is an enormous concern. I am familiar with that neighborhood, have walked in that neighborhood, have friends that I visited in that neighborhood, and it is not an easy place to navigate. My concerns, my number one concern is the traffic. Whether that traffic is early and late, it's additional traffic in an area that is already substantially squeezed, and has a number of challenges. It even has some challenges as you're driving through there, later in the evening. The traffic on Route 22 tends to move at a pretty good pace. There are people that are turning at that light, thinking that they can get through before the cars come around, and there's a lot of near misses there. It's also zoned residential. I understand the desire of having a business in the village of Lake Zurich, but one of the concerns that I have, and I'm by no means anti-development. I've supported a number of developments that have come to our village. I like to see the growth. But it's important for me that as we look at adding things to our village, that we're doing so in a manner that makes sense. I've yet to see a traffic study, So, and I'm sure that would be part of the proposal moving forward. But my initial concerns is that this is not, or my initial thought is that this is not an ideal spot for this particular business. So that's my input. I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. We'll move down this way and we'll go down to trustee Euchre.
Thanks, trustee Spicone. Thanks for the presentation as well as the materials. I have a few questions for you. First of all, there is a statement in your letter to the village, November 1st, 2024, that says, "We asked KLOA, our traffic consultant, to review the proposed site, and their findings are included." But I don't see any findings. So was or was there not a traffic study done by KLOA?
The study was provided to staff.
Okay.
It was not attached to the two-page letter that I presented.
But certainly that you
It is.
included in with this letter. And so there was a study done, and what I'd like to know is, did that study take into consideration train traffic? Because although there's an underpass, I'm familiar with that area, and I'm familiar with Robertson, Maine, the 22 bypass, as well as the area around the library
No,
heading
that
to
would
May
be
Whitney.
a complete study,
Okay.
which of course would be forthcoming. However, if you're looking for a study, it was a letter of opinion, an email from KLOA,
Got it.
recognizing that this is very early in a process.
Where is the nearest Bright Path kids to Lake Zurich right now?
There are 3 communities, one in Sugar Grove, one in South Elgin, and one in Bucktown. There are numerous other locations in Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, to come up with the 100 locations within the United States.
Okay, thank you. How many anticipated employees would be at this facility?
There would be approximately 30 to 35, depending on enrollment. Recognize that state licensing for daycare is required, and the size of the rooms dictate, the age of the child dictates. All of those would be considered.
Okay.
I may have understated the number of staff.
Okay,
This facility is estimated to support a licensing of about 180 students.
okay,
When it's reduced, what I indicated in the letter was the 13,700 square feet. At 12,000, it would be less.
I see. Okay, thank you for that clarification. One of the statements that was in the November 1st letter was that we look forward to being a valued community member that will bring young families to the area and serve a critical community need for high-quality childcare. My question to you, sir, is Bright Path, did they do a study of what other childcare is available to the market in Lake Zurich and whether there's currently vacancies or such a need? I mean, critical community need for high-quality childcare, I think, is a pretty bold statement given the fact of the number of childcare facilities we have available in Lake Zurich. I'm not saying you didn't do your homework, but if there's been a marketing study in that regard, I'd like to know the basis for the statement.
Bradford did not do that study. It's Bright Path that does demographic studies where they want to be located, and they are seeking a location in Lake Zurich.
Got it, and Bright Path is the one that's seeking to come to Lake Zurich, not Bradford, right? So they made that
Bradford is the
statement.
real estate development company.
Okay. So, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., the lighting, that would be the outside lighting, do you know if that would be left on at night for the parking lot or not?
It would not be
Okay.
on at night.
Do you know
It
what
would be safety lighting at exit doors as required,
Okay,
but this is a facility that's open Monday through Friday.
got it. Based on the other locations, Sugar Grove, South Elgin, and Bucktown, do you know what the price points would be? And would you offer shorter days to some families or dropping off less than one time per week?
I can't speak to their operation.
Got it. Okay, well, I will say, I'm honest, I have concerns that my colleagues have about traffic. And now that I know what the number of employees might be, I have a real concern about the number of parking spaces. Because if you have 30 to 35 employees or more, based on ratios dictated by the state, as you've indicated, and you have 42 parking spaces, and you have 150 kids at the site being dropped off, it could cause more of a backup and a problem with traffic in terms of the not enough parking spaces.
So if I may
do have
respond to
concern.
that.
Yep, absolutely.
The parents are required to come in, short-term park, bring their child into the facility and come out. Studies have shown that that can be 5 to 10 minutes in terms of an interval in the morning and in the evening.
Okay.
And so through their various locations, 10 dedicated parking spaces which are adjacent to the building, those are for that short-term parking. The balance would be for staff, but obviously all staff do not drive or may take public transportation, be dropped off.
Okay. Well, we don't have public transportation, but thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it. You probably are referring to an Uber or something like that. That still would be another vehicle nearby adding to the traffic. You know, I've voiced what my concerns are. I thank you for your presentation and your honesty. Thank you.
All right, moving on to Trustee Riley.
Yeah, so really hard to go after Mary Beth there. First, thank you to the residents for coming up speaking. It's hard to get up here just in general, then knowing that you're Facebook Live and all the other stuff that goes with that. So I appreciate sharing your concerns, whether those are concerns that are in mass agreement or not. But then to the developer, so a couple things. I'm not going to drain what everybody has said thus far. I think you know very well in terms of what the main concerns are. The parking was one of my biggest ones too, in terms of like the traffic backup that would even happen along that street, or people are going to park along that street because they can't pull in. I have kids. I can't tell you how many times I've had struggle finding parking spots in situations where it's much more ideal than a potential 12, maybe 15 parking spots available during drop-off. Drop-off does not take 5 to 10 minutes, and I could not tell you also a situation in which staff is eagerly pushing people in and out. It's chaotic in the morning for a number of reasons, and then just knowing the children and the traffic that are there. Again, not going to build past that. I would also say, though, the owner has the right to develop this property at some point. There are some things and some concerns that were brought up that would be still concerns if it was left in R4. So you think about the usage and the greenage around there. If it's an R4, most of that greenage is going to go down. It's invasive. It won't stay there. So I think just the thought for the residents that are in that location, when it if it ever becomes developed, some of those things are still going to happen, whether it's residential or not. I would also say you did the best, in my opinion, for what you could in this, so I appreciate staff with working along. For the residents, when developers do come forward, staff's obligation is to help them come up with the best proposal that minimalizes any impact to the community and benefits the impact of the community along the way. In my opinion, this, for what you could have brought forward, this is about as best of a layout as you can get from a footprint perspective, and keeping the maintenance screening up in terms of that was thoughtful along that process. But usage and the traffic, I think those are carried forward. If you go to PZC and then back to us, I think those are things that you're going to have to address and weigh drastically when you think about the community and the concerns around that.
All right, thank you very much. Trustee Marks.
Thank you, Trustee Spicone. Last but not least, I hope. I think everyone's brought up a number of good points, so I'm not gonna reiterate kind of all the salient points that the members of the community brought up and that were echoed by the board. The one thing that it did really stand out to me for this specific type of development, and I think someone from the public said it very well, this feels very square peg round hole. One, from the traffic suitability for Robertson Road, just seems like that is a bottleneck that would not be easily resolved. And then just in terms of the operating model of a daycare, I'm not sure if staff can speak to the volume on Route 22 on a daily basis, but I did happen to notice that the location of the playground is directly adjacent to the road. It should come as no surprise that diesel and gasoline particulate matter has been associated with an inhibition of childhood development. So it just seems like I take Trustee Riley's point to heart that we can't stand in the face of development and just say no repeatedly. But this type of development for where it is just seems like quite unsuitable for the space that it would occupy. So that would be where I would be coming from, an analysis of a proposal that would come before us a subsequent time. So I do thank you for your presentation. Obviously, a good amount of work went into it, but I think at this point, that would be where I would fall on the matter. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If you would all indulge me for a minute, I want to ask a couple of questions just because I like to think out of the box a little bit. And this would be Mike Brown, Sarosh at this point. And just to try and echo the concerns of the residents that live on Robertson Road, is there any level of public improvement that we could make to that right-of-way that would enhance this Robertson Road intersection in any way that would benefit the community and the property at this point? Widening of Robertson Road, widening of those intersections, I'm just asking, is there anything, again, thinking out of the box, big picture, take the 10,000 foot view, is there any way that we can enhance this corner, this Robertson Road intersection, to support the residents who obviously have a long-standing concern about the width of the road and their backup on a regular basis, let alone trying to support a business like this in the long run? Or are we just so limited in terms of the land available that's over there the way this was originally planned out that we just don't have any options?
Without eating into the property, I'd say a widening would be out of the question. But the one thing I would look at, and I don't know if you did you guys reach out to IDOT to see if a right-in, right-off would be feasible off of Route 22?
We assumed that it would not be, and it's been said a few times this evening that it would not be. And certainly the short dimension that you have on Main
Closest to the
Street
traffic signal.
would not accommodate, would actually be worse than coming off of the Robertson Road.
Okay. So the answer would be no at this point in terms of enhancing that
Without knowing
area.
how much room you'd have to take off of the private parcel, it's
Right.
hard to say, but
Okay.
it would be needed.
Fair response, thanks. That's why I was asking, just because I know, and maybe long-term with Robertson Road, maybe we have a longer, deeper discussion with the residents of the area to maybe see if there's a long-term answer to dealing with the Robertson Road concerns, but knowing that it's not going to be something that would impact this project at this point.
If I may add just one point, as we understand the land survey, the right-of-way along West Main Street is very deep. That's the area that the trees were removed so many years ago. So
Understand that.
Okay.
Totally
There's
get that.
public land there now.
There is, but the concern is that it's so close to the intersection. You'd have the driveway unloading onto Main Street. You have Robertson Road unloading to Main Street. You have the people coming through the downtown area, coming out on Main Street to access 22. That it would create we'd have too many exit points right there to try and connect into the turn, unless it was again a right in, right out only, and that was eating up into that corner, accessing right out into 22. Otherwise, it is a real tight area for way too much to unload. And I respect that and I get that. I'm just trying to understand big picture how we can get there. Outside of what the residents had expressed concerns and what the rest of the board had concerned, I would take deeply into looking at what those recommendations and those concerns are. Again, the ball is in your court in terms of whether you want to continue to proceed down this path or not with staff and moving forward. but I think you've gotten a lot of feedback from the board and the direction in which we'd like to see things move forward. So anything else I'm missing? Yes.
Sarosh, sorry to interrupt you. What is Block B zoned?
Block B is zoned within the B2 Central Business District.
Okay. I just didn't know if that was an option or had been looked at.
So there are some other potential options throughout the community as well in terms of that are already zoned appropriately, and maybe working with staff, exploring some of the other options as well might be a possibility, that are also near that area without necessarily continue. If you decide not to pursue this piece of property, there may be some other options is what we're getting at there that maybe staff might be able to help with, facilitate discussions for you. So, without anything else, again, this is a non-voting item. Is there anything else, Michael, that we need to go forward with this one, or are we ready to move on?
I appreciate all the comments that were made by the residents that showed up, as well as the trustees this evening. It'll be up to the developer to decide whether or not they would like to move ahead. We're certainly, from the staff perspective, are available to have discussions about it, additional pieces of property and you know, what would make sense for that type of development.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We'll close up item 7, and we'll move on to trustee reports. I'm sorry, did you have any additional questions or things you wanted to express before we moved on?
Just in closing, that we do appreciate this courtesy review, and we'll take the comments that we heard this evening to Bright Path and determine a next path.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. Moving on to trustee reports. Any trustee reports? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? No? All right. No trustee reports. Moving on to village staff reports.
Does anybody have any? So, if no one else will say it.
You're on.
Sure. Thank you. On behalf of the board and the staff, we want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving and safe travels to everyone hitting the road or flying or trains or whatever mode of transportation you're using, especially all of the college kids who are headed home for their breaks.
All right. Thank you. So moving on to item 10, executive session. We will move into executive session called for the purpose of 5 ILCS 122C21, review of executive session minutes, and 5 ILCS 120-2C5, purchase of real estate. We will not take any action during the executive session. We will adjourn that and adjourn right out of the meeting from that point forward. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving season. And we'll see you all at our next meeting on Monday, December 2nd. Thank you, everybody. Drive safe.